Sonic Universe issue 49. We start out with the Chaotix going with Jack and vehicles on the way to an ambush of Eggman's troops. Ray worries about how Jack would react to finding out Mighty was just using him to get his sister back, and Vector says that when things get bad, they'll grab Mighty and his sister and take the warp ring back to Angel Island. Mighty gets into a contraption with Baron apologizing and saying that they have to make a show of it since Jack knows no handcuffs can hold him. Why doesn't he just tell Mighty that he's Bunny's uncle and that's how he knows how he feels? Jack demands to get Mighty first, and Baron says he's not risking him tearing the whole carrier in half. Jack then attacks, and Baron says to fire the cannon to get the troops to the front lines and tells them to be careful with their fire because some of the ropes are theirs. When Jack overhears that Vector is part of the Chaotix, he realizes that they're one of the famous freedom fighter teams. And I have to wonder how he didn't figure it out immediately if he already knows who the Chaotix are. I mean, he saw an armadillo with super strength get greeted by a crocodile being chameleon and didn't know they were the Chaotix? Instead of liking them, since they're one of the freedom fighters who fight Eggman, and I'm not sure how he would know that they are friends with Sonic since he didn't even recognize them when he saw them. Instead of it kind of making sense, he furiously tells his friends to run the Chaotix down. And Vector grabs their vehicle, and they tell Ray to get over to Mighty. Mighty says to the Baron to let him go, saying that if his sisters rejected him, he shouldn't leave him hanging here to watch her get attacked. Ray demands Baron to let Mighty go. Matilda threatens Ray, telling him to leave the Baron alone, and the Baron complains about kids fighting. When Matilda says no to going away with Mighty, Ray sees how bad Mighty feels, and I have his full support when he stands up to her. No! Do you know how long he looked for you? How much it hurt him to think you were dead or gone forever? You may not remember him, but he remembers you. He loves you. He relates to her that he was lost without a family too and didn't age right, even though he only lost a year of his life, so whatever. But anyways, he says passionately that Mighty just wants to give her a life like he has. He says that with him, she'll never be alone and scared again. This is kind of a tearjerker moment. It's heartwarming. She looks depressed as he asks how she could possibly not want that. Then she seems to look alert and somehow remember Mighty holding her when she was a baby, even though babies can't retain long-term memories. I mean, did she come to the orphanage as a baby? Couldn't she have remembered a more realistic memory? Ray cries, saying that Mighty will always be there for her like he is for him. And then Jack's thugs come in telling Ray that he made a great distraction while attacking him, and threatens to kill Mighty as he breaks free of the chains. Matilda furiously tells him to get away from her brother and blasts him away, which was pretty cool the way that she said it. Matilda then punches a missile coming from Mighty and falls over on her back. This enrages Mighty enough to break free of the contraption and wreak havoc on Jack and his gangsters. Then we see Mighty's sister nervously smiling in the medical tent, and she says that she feels okay, if weak, and cares enough to ask Mighty if he's safe because she doesn't want to lose her brother again. Mighty's sister gets introduced to Ray and is happy to see that she has two brothers. Then Baron puts his hand on Mighty's shoulder and tells him that his sister will need a new arm, which needs balancing and calibrating, and there's systematic damage that will require care, precision, and tools they only have here. This means, as I expected from her getting hurt, that she needs to stay with them, even though you could just have Rotor or Nicole fix her. And for everyone's safety, Mighty has to leave. Mighty, not thinking of any sort of other solution, gets desperate and says he could put on a robe and take on another name, begging to not have to lose her again. The Baron reasons with him that the ruse wouldn't last anyways, and he reassures him that he's not losing her because they'll be taking care of her here, and he can always come to visit her, carefully. Besides, she's safer this way, kind of. At least this way she's not fighting against Eggman and thus risking her life although she is being threatened by Jack's thugs. She really would be safer in the Nanite City. Mighty is then reassured by his friends and leaves with them in the warp ring. The story ends with the Baron saying that he knows what it's like to have a family divided, just as Bunny shows up at his doorstep. Because her simply asking Tails, Rotor, and Nicole to cyborgize her in a much safer way would make too much sense. Instead, she has to go get cyborg legs with explosives in them that might even brainwash her. That's totally the safer option. She can't just get an arm cannon strapped to her and get a jetpack and ray guns to make up for her being organic again. That would make too much sense. It would be nice if we got to see at least a couple more panels to this issue to see her conversation with the Baron, but instead we'll never see how that went, making me hate any of the padding in this story because it's its fault. This issue is by Ian Flynn. I love that Ray's passionate speech to Matilda changes her mind. I thought for sure she'd just stay distant forever. Instead, she reacts perfectly, although inexplicably remembering Mighty when she shouldn't. Unfortunately, she gets injured protecting Mighty, and this forces her to stay where she is so that she can be healed, because Rotor couldn't heal her for some reason. But the Baron reassures Mighty that he hasn't really lost her because she's safe where she is. I guess he keeps her away from the front lines. Even though we saw him riding with her next to him in the front lines at one point when Bunny and Sonic were fighting. So no, she's not safe. And he can come visit her carefully anytime he wants, especially with a warp ring. It was really sweet how she not only defended him, but actually smiled seeing him at the end. We don't really need her to be in the Nanite City with Mighty anyways. I mean, she's more interesting in this position. It's just frustrating that the story ends before we could see Bunny's talk with their uncle.